Hey, what's up guys, Radku here back with another Yu-Gi-Oh video, and today is going to be S-Force. Now, I'm surprised I haven't made this list before because I love this deck. I made like a weird chaos variant I think a while ago, but I don't think I profiled it because the deck hadn't been released yet, and I've kind of just been putting this off, but it's finally here and I'm ready to profile one of my favorite decks. Like, this deck is awesome and it's way stronger than people think. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting things off, I play 2 copies of Dog Tag. I'm just gonna run through them and run through all their effects real quick. So Dog Tag is mainly for column control because the thing is that it can special summon itself during your opponent's turn, and you can summon it in their columns, which can help with your column control effects. I play 3 copies of Edge Razor. This card special summons 1 from hand, and it prevents your opponent from going into link 3 or higher monsters using cards in S-Force columns, which is pretty good. Decent card, but honestly it doesn't come up in a lot of matchups. I play 3 copies of Gravitino. This card is your searcher, and it is a banish for any card in an S-Force column, which is really good. It's really easy to proc this effect, and some people might think that 3 copies bricks, but surprisingly it does not, considering that you have many ways to get it out of your hand. I play 2 copies of Orifice. This card prevents targeting in S-Force columns, and it becomes a mini Ghost Ogre while when an effect activates, so it's fine. I honestly don't think that this card is super good, but I actually do like it at 2 because that targeting protection actually helps a lot, on top of the fact that this is just another name to get out of your deck, which more names is good. I play 2 copies of Platina. This card is really good. Specials from Banished. 2 copies is good. I think 3 copies is a little bricky because you don't want to see it in your opening hand unless you have very specific situations. So honestly, like, this is pretty good. I wouldn't play it at more than 2, but like, I feel like this is a proper ratio. I played 3 copies of Rappa Chiyomaru. This card makes it to where your opponent can only attack cards in the columns, which that's fine, but its main effect is quick effect. You can banish 1 S-Force from your hand, return this card to the hand, and if you do, special summon 1 S-Force from your deck. So the thing is that this card, like, misses a lot. So if your opponent destroys it, then it will like, the effect won't be able to go through because it won't be able to return to hand. So therefore, this is one of the few cards that is actually that, like, I wish it was a spell, then I could actually say this is one of the few cards that dies to MST, but you know what I mean. This card can't, if it's destroyed, its effect won't go through, which kind of sucks, but you can easily play through that with this list, and I think it's still the best card in the entire deck. I play 3 copies of Ash Blossom just as a generic hand trap. Onto the spells, 1 Terraforming searches your Bridgehead, 1 Rhoda to search your Rappa, because the quicker you can get to Rappa, the quicker you can do your combos, but I didn't want to play the Heavenly Squire engine because it's just not necessary. I play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. This card is amazing for this deck. I play 3 copies of Bridgehead. This card searches on activation, and it protects S-Forces from battle in the columns. So honestly, this card isn't the best, but it's still really good. But if your opponent reads it, then you can get around a lot of the effects. I play 3 copies of S-Force Showdown. This card special is from hand. It's honestly really good and is one of the best ways to play around hand traps / disruption because it helps you get cards out of your hand. And people think that this deck is reliant on this card. Trust me, it is not. This card is a minor extender at best. Like, honestly, this card is really good, but you don't even need it for this deck to be perfect. I played 2 copies of Signet Mining, more copies of Edge Razor, or as I like to call it, Edgelord, because it can search it, and this card is one of your best normal summons next to, like, Rappa. So honestly, this 2 copies of Sign at Mining is actually decent. I play 3 copies of S-Force Chase. This card is broken. Returns cards to hand equal to the number of S-Force cards. On a normal turn, you'll be able to summon at least 3 S-Force cards, and then by the next turn, you'll be able to get 5, doing full column control with Gravitino and returning a ton of cards to hand. I play 3 copies of Dogmatic Punishment. This card is really good for this deck, and this deck is like the anti-extra deck. Like, honestly, it is. I play 3 copies of There Can Only Be One because this card's just really good. It's another card that that can help with the control aspect of the deck, considering the fact that most of them are different levels except for Aurifist and Edge Razor, but usually you don't go into Aurifist a lot, so all of your other monsters are different types, so you can easily use There Can Only Be One. However, there are plenty of situations where you want to summon 2 copies of Gravitino, which does come up quite a bit, but you don't necessarily need it, which is why I think There Can Only Be One is a good card for this deck. So going into the extra deck, I play 2 copies of S-Force Justify. This card isn't very good. It's a negate. It's a negate for over half, or for half the field. For a single negate. The thing is that you cannot summon to zones this card points to. I wish it said that your opponent can't, because then there would be some insane combos with this card. Like, I'm talking extra links, but like, I don't think you could do extra links considering that it doesn't point. But still, there would have been a lot of crazy stuff you could do with control with this, because then you would only need to use 2 columns, but sadly, no. But honestly, S-Force Justify isn't very good. I usually banish it off of Prosperity. It's like the worst card you have in your extra deck. Then I play, for generic cards, 1 copy of Access Code, 1 copy of Appaloosa, 1 copy of Mech Knight Crusadia Average, 1 copy of Borlo Dragon. I preferred this over Boral Sword just because it is an out-true Dragoon. 1 copy of each of the Nightmares, the good ones anyway, because generic spot removal, but they're mostly just to banish off of Prosperity. I play 2 copies of Entis and 1 copy of Five-Headed Dragon. You did not see anything, I did not just put this in here. These cards are really good with Dogmatic Punishment. I play 1 copy of Constellar Pleiades, because you can summon it with the with level 5 Gravitino, and it's some decent removal, and it falls perfectly considering that Gravitino is a light monster. So Pleiades, decent removal and Zeus target. 1 copy of Diamond Crab King. I decided to play this over any other rank 4 because it's an easy way to get a big beater on the field. I could have honestly just played any of them that have 3000 attack, but I kind of wanted to play this just for a meme spot, but also because it can get 2 materials for, guess what? Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. I rarely make this card, but when I do, it's a really good blowout card. Able to just clear the field, and then you always have S-Force Chase just being in your back pocket. So that is pretty much it for the deck. Let's go over to some combos. So this is a basic 2-card combo with Rappa and Gravitino. Honestly, most people know this combo because it was showed off by Yassine, but still, normal summon Rappa, effective Rappa, banish Gravitino, return Rappa to hand, and special summon the Platina from deck. Now, Platina's effect will trigger special summoning the Gravitino, and then Gravitino's effect will activate, adding the good ol' S-Force Chase to hand. Now you have a double bounce on your field, while still being able to keep a decent board presence and having potential for follow-ups next turn. So let's say you go into next turn, you draw a random card, who cares? So then you activated S-Force Chase during your opponent's turn. You can send this to grave. Then you can normal summon Rappa. You can use the effect of Rappa to banish the Chase and the grave because Chase can be a banish for any S-Force card. It's broken. You return Wrath out of hand, and you can special summon a Gravitino from deck, or you can summon an Edge Razor. Now, the reason that this would come up is because you can use Edge Razor's effect to special summon Chiyomaru, and now you can have better column control, or you could have just summoned another Gravitino off of the effect and then went in for Zeus plays while still having one monster on the field for bounces. So that's pretty much it for the combo. Let's go into my final thoughts. So do I think this deck is competitive? No. But do I think it is competitively viable? Yes. I have easily been able to beat decks like Prank Kids. I have been able to beat decks like Shadal. There are plenty of decks that this deck is really good against with cards like Chase. And the deck has decent column control. It's an extremely underrated deck, has a very nice gimmick, and is actually kinda decent going into this format, considering that you can get rid of multiple cards on your field. This deck does have many pitfalls, including anytime going second, because this deck doesn't have really good going second plays. However, you do have enough disruption to be able to do stuff, and with cards like Dog Tag, you can effectively shut down your opponent's plays because they can't do anything on your turn, so it punishes your opponent for playing on your turn, which is actually really, really good. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, let me know what you thought, and let me know if there's anything you would change about the list. I have been honing this list for a while now, and I really do think this is the optimal lineup going into the format with S-Force. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and I will see you in the next Yu-Gi-Oh video. Peace, guys.